Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Shira, and I'm here with Kim, Lee, and Juji. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. So we have all experienced pain in our lives to varying degrees. But sometimes when we look at it in the rearview mirror, we can either look at it as a breakdown or a breakthrough. Girls?
I'll start us off. I was thinking about this topic and how breakdowns are just so necessary. They really are, because they provide us with contrast. You know, if you're having a breakdown, it's the only way sometimes that you're going to see the other side. You're going to be able to appreciate the other side. You're going to be able to see the other side. And then take necessary steps to get to the other side. You know, it's the springboard. I was thinking about like something to share as far as a breakdown I've experienced, and it wasn't me specifically, but I was thinking about this time when it's so funny because even thinking about the story, like my heart is beating so fast right now. Oh.
Okay, curious.
I don't think I've really ever probably told you guys this, but my parents, when I grew up, were, you know, they fought a lot, and my dad was an alcoholic and just struggled with that a lot. And there was this one time when they were fighting, and I don't know what happened. Maybe my mom threatened to take me and my sisters away, or I'm not quite sure. But I was in school, and I don't even remember how old I was, but I think I was in the 6th grade or something like that. And all of a sudden, a teacher came in and said, you know, your dad's here. You need to leave with him. And so I walked out of, I was confused because it was the middle of this regular school day and I had no idea what was going on. And I walked out of the school, and he was just like, hurry up, come on. And he like grabbed my hand, and he's walking really, really fast. And he's like, I'll explain later. Like, just let's go. And I was like, oh, okay. And like a second later, I guess my mom had called the school and said, don't let him take her. How she knew, you know, I don't really know what went down, but the principal or somebody in charge came like running out, screaming, you know, get back here, don't know, and we're going to call the police, blah, blah, blah. And my dad like scoops me up in his arm, and I just remember like my body, like, you know, and he's running to the car. And now he wasn't abducting me to like kill me or anything. It's just, if you knew my dad, you know why I find that so funny. He's like the warmest person in the world. But he needed to talk to someone, and he was in the middle of a huge breakdown and desperate and had no idea what to do or where to go. And, you know, it wasn't okay. Obviously, I'm not saying it's okay that a parent do that, put a child in that position, you know, but looking at it years and years later, you know, there was some traumatizing, confusing moments I've had in my life, like with my parents, where things like that happened that felt very like unstable and unsafe. And looking back, I'm like, I now in my 40s can really see the breakdowns that occurred in my parents' life and marriage and personal journeys. And that is one that really sticks out to me, because I remember getting in his car, he sped away, and we found somewhere, we parked, and he was sobbing like a little baby, completely uncontrollable, like, it was just so sad. And he was so desperate, like, and when people are having breakdowns, you know, they do desperate things because they feel like, and this is not everybody, of course, but when you're having a breakdown, you feel like your life is about to end. Like there's no way out, or no, you can't see anything. Like your life's over. Like something is ending for you or something. So anyway, but then I look at like what transpired, and then he got into rehab, right? And then things turned around and things got better. And listen, it was like this, until I was in my 20s. But I saw the breakthrough. I saw the breakdowns. I saw many breakdowns. I saw many breakthroughs. And it's really quite beautiful, when you get to that other side. And a lot of times you have to hit rock bottom to get there.
Yeah. Thanks for
Kim,
sharing.
I thank you for sharing that story. First of all, I cannot imagine how traumatic that must have been at the time. And what I love about you sharing that is your empathy, because here we are hearing, we're talking about breakthroughs and breakdowns, and you're sharing a breakdown that your father went through, but you actually went through it with him in your own way as an observer, perhaps, and you were physically there. But it's just so beautiful how deeply empathetic you are with it, and if I feel like it not only impacted you in a traumatic way where obviously it triggers you in this way, and it's very emotional, but at the same time, you're almost like celebrating his breakthrough with it, which is incredible. So I applaud you for that. It's almost easier to think about going through a traumatic experience like that as a child and being resentful of it, and being like, how dare, you could have told a whole different story right now of how can my father have done that to me? How humiliated I was in, leaving my classroom or seeing the principal that way. So, I mean, I think you've turned a very traumatic experience into, a powerful yet beautiful ending kind of story.
But I'm curious to know if, was there any point in between your aha moment, like in your 40s looking back, and right after that happened, and look, things take time, right? So if he went into rehab and then ups and downs, like it's such a journey. Was there ever any part of you that felt like, oh my God, I can't believe that I'm a little kid basically, and I have to carry this burden almost? Was there any part of you that felt that way?
Yeah, I mean, that's a conversation that took place many years in a therapist's office. So I'm very aware of like what was wrong, just wrong parenting style about that. But I have to say, I've just always been naturally very empathetic. Like, Lee, I love that you pointed that out, because you're right. That story could have gone in other directions as far as how I see it and how
and not to say that it did not affect you, negatively, or, it was obviously traumatic. So I'm not taking that away, but I totally saw that other side of it.
Yeah. And to your question, Shira, I actually am very similar to my dad. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He will do anything for anyone. Him and my mom are actually very opposite. And I definitely take after my dad. Like, I have his personality. I have his very loving, nurturing side. It's very obvious. So they say empathy is something you can't learn or teach. And I really feel like I did learn it from my dad, or I get it from my dad, because he's so empathetic to others. I mean, the amount of times I've witnessed him support fellow AA people, sponsors, like he's just will do anything for anyone and is so empathetic. So anyway, just to answer your question, Shira, I've definitely had those moments. I don't think I was ever super angry about it where I was holding on to the anger, but I definitely understand that was not okay. And that wasn't the first time, that happened all throughout my childhood. He chose me probably because I was the most like him and the most nurturing out of my sisters. So, but yeah, I get it. I see it,
You were the chosen one.
We may have to edit that out. Go ahead.
I think that what we're getting at here is that a lot of the time the breakdown is like an accumulation, right? You don't go from like 0 to breakdown. It's like a long road of like stuffing it down and like keeping it in and like piling it onto your shoulders for years usually, before something has to give, like you have to get to that point where you're like, this is unsustainable. I've gone this far without seeking help, without, really examining anything or looking at anything clearly. I have ignored the problem or, like medicated the problem or denied the problem and like put on that happy face for years and years and years. And then, I remember like when I was like reaching the point of my own breakdown, like the weirdest things would make me cry. I remember being home for Christmas, visiting my family, and we had a tradition of going to the movies with like everyone. But usually what would happen is the women would want to go see one film and the men would want to go see another film. And this time around, it was like a Star Wars movie and I wasn't interested. So The Greatest Showman had just come out. And my mom and I decided to go see that instead of what everybody else was going to see. And it was about the same length. So we coordinated, we went to the movies. And I remember like sitting down and there was like one touching moment at the beginning of the film. And I just started bawling. And I cried throughout the entire film in the dark for like, it was like inappropriate amounts of crying, right? But it was just like some faucet had been like turned on and I was just like, this is awful. I felt like I had been holding back tears for months, maybe even years at that point. And like, I just reached that breaking point and it was safe to cry in the dark. Like my mom didn't know I was crying, but I was just like silently sobbing in the theater. And I was just like, I came out of there and I was like, yeah, that was really intense. And it was a musical.
Wait. First of all, yes, funny, because I love that movie so much. But do you know what triggered it? In like what emotions came up for you that you were bawling at The Greatest Showman?
I mean, it starts with like a heartfelt thing about childhood and like, this guy grew up very poor and was like told that he would never amount to anything. And then he was like out to prove to the world that he was actually like worthy and all of this stuff. And I was just like, first of all, I very much relate to that. Not because I was ever told I wouldn't amount to anything. That is not the point. I just felt like I didn't belong for most of my life, having come here from another country, having been rejected by my peers very early on in that process, and then wanting for a very long time to prove to other people, not for my own benefit, but just to prove to everybody else that they were wrong about me in some way. And I really felt at that moment that I had failed in that endeavor, because I was so caught up in like external validation and it wasn't coming, or like it was, but it wasn't real. And there were so many other things accumulating below that, on top of that, just it was all compounded into this one moment. And I was like, and it was probably, I think 2 or 3 weeks later that I did Landmark for the first time. And I feel like that's what really cracked everything open for me and really like set me on a whole other trajectory with my life. Which is where I met Kim, and through her, I met you guys, and like, here we are. But that was the beginning of what I consider to be the breakdown that eventually led to the breakthrough, because I just could tell, like, if a sweet, heartfelt, upbeat musical movie makes me cry for 2 hours, like something's gotta give.
Yeah. Well, you guys know that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, no, I was just curious, when you left the theater, was there any ounce of like, okay, this has to get better? I obviously feel this way. Was it like a slap in the face of like, accept it, you feel this way, like, because you said a few weeks later you started Landmark, like in that few weeks, what was that like, that few weeks?
Well, I was already signed up. I had no idea what it was.
And they say that's when the work really starts.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
They definitely do say that. I was unaware of that until I got there. But I think that at that point, I wasn't even fully like, I don't know if you guys feel this way, but when you are like on the path to the breakdown and like you get to the point where you hit that wall, you're like, you feel like you've just been asleep for a long time. Like there's just been this like haze over your eyes, and you're not like, you're not really like aware enough of of anything until something has to slap you in the face. So even only in hindsight did I look back at like sobbing in that theater going like, yeah, that's not normal. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't aware in that moment that like there was something really brewing in terms of, because like you can't plan a breakthrough or a breakdown.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's somewhat of an awakening on both ends, whether it's your breakdown or breakthrough, right? It's like,
yeah,
it's like that aha moment.
It's funny because when I was going through a very difficult time, even though I tried to put on my little happy face like all day long, when I finally broke down and was like, I can't, and I had outside help, as you all know, like when things were really, really difficult and challenging in my marriage, my sister and I met, and I just uncovered a lot of information, just had this massive awakening. And from there, it was like therapy and my ACA group that I joined and talking to you all. And so there's so much to my healing. But I remember coming across an acronym for the word hope. And the acronym is Hold On, Pain Ends. And I just remember reading that going, if more people who are in dire amounts of pain, who, like we've been talking about, are so stuck, because I was so stuck, I did not see a way out either. And it's at those moments that we have to remember that there is help, that there are other people that are going through what you're going through, because it feels really lonely sometimes, where you're just like, nobody understands it, this is horrible. Because pain has so many colors to it, right? We can feel pain when we're ashamed. We can feel pain when we're sad, when we're disappointed in ourselves and other people. And it really does get so fucking heavy sometimes. And so when I read that Hold On, Pain Ends, I was like, yes, it does. And sometimes it takes years to realize that. But at the same time, if we choose to take responsibility for our own lives, because a lot of pain comes from the pointing the finger, like, you're making my life miserable, you. But I remember pointing the finger myself going, but what are you allowing, Shira? You're allowing a lot of the things that are paining you to continue. So that's on you, meaning me. And so these are little aha moments. So for me, it's almost like I want to like look through the camera and go, just check yourself, just talk to yourself, get on your knees, pray, ask for help. It'll come. It will. I just know, like, when you are really ready to be healed, to have awareness, to feel better, you will start to see little suggestions, books pop up, articles, video. It's just an amazing thing, but you have to be willing.
Yeah, that reminds me, Shira, of, the saying, this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well,
And
my father used to say that to me all the time. And when I was like stuck, I was like,
yeah.
that's horseshit.
Mm.
When
This is
you're in
never
it,
gonna pass. This sucks.
when you're in it, it's almost impossible to,
Yeah.
to have that thought or to think about it. You're in it and you're going through it, but eventually it does pass.
Yeah, well, one of the things in ACA that for whatever it's worth, I will just share is one of the readings that happens every week is something along the lines of we start to heal when we risk moving out of isolation. And that always struck a chord with me because I went it alone for a while. I just kind of like, here's the burden, carrying it around with me, and when we risk reaching out that's when change really happens, I find.
Yeah. This all also reminds me of a quote that I heard, many years ago, and you may have heard of this one, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with being in like, pain, but it might be some kind of a suffering that we're going through in life, whether, it is our health that we want to get better, or we want to lose weight, or whatever it is. But this quote is, aren't you sick and tired of being sick and tired?
Yeah.
Right. And when we start to really give that some thought, and that I think kind of is linked to what you were saying, Shira, about taking responsibility.
Yeah.
Huge, because it's like once we do start to take responsibility for whatever it is that we want to improve in our lives, we need to step it up. And once we get sick or disgusted of how we have been, handling certain things in our life, that's when we can make the choice, or when we do make the choice to do it differently.
It usually comes down to making excuses either for yourself or for other people. That's when you start to take responsibility, when you start to realize all the excuses you're making for why you're still in the shitty position you're in.
Yeah.
I know it's very simple, but it's kind of true.
It's
Well,
true.
and everybody reaches a breaking point at their own time. So you could be on your own journey and deal with something for, a year, and then just be like, that's it, I'm done, I have to make change. And you could watch someone even in your own life who 20 years go by, they're still complaining about the same horrible things. It's everyone's just on their own journey regarding timing.
That's what I was going to say. It's has gotten so much easier as an adult now, and with all of this education and personal development, to identify those around me, whether it's family members, friends, neighbors, whatever, who speak in those ways. Like I actually, just a quick example, I was talking to a client last night, right? So I'm in real estate now, and I was talking to a client who's looking for a home, and she was bitching about her ex-husband, and every other sentence from her blamed him for something, and I'm ill, and it's because of him, and he did this to me, and he did that to me, and I can't do this because of my ex-husband and how he treated me. And this was like literally the epitome of her blaming him for everything in her life. And I'm not, I have no idea who he is and what he's done, but this is, there's an underlying ignorance there of like, how have you showed up, or what kind of a choices have you made? And again, blaming somebody else is not taking responsibility for your own life.
Yeah,
Never will
for some
be.
reason that reminds me of like it's not a joke or anything, but there's like a guy on the train, he's just complaining about how thirsty, I'm so thirsty, oh my God, I'm so thirsty. And then there's finally like a break, and the doors open, and there's like a water cooler right there, and he drinks the water, and he comes back on the train, and he just goes, I was so thirsty, oh my God, was I thirsty? And it's like, oh my God, shut up already. Where we complain about something, and then we complain about it like in the past. It's like, wow.
Oh, and Shira, one last thing about something you said earlier about talking to people and reaching out and getting support. That is so important, because it's one of those things that can just make and break your entire journey. If you're struggling with something, you might not see how to move forward, but you can talk to someone and they might have 20 options for you and shift your perspective completely.
Totally.
And also just getting it off your chest too, like you said earlier.
If I knew then what I know now. Wow.
Right.
Well, my loves, this is a great place to wrap. If you have enjoyed our conversation, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests or questions by commenting below. We'll see you all soon. Thank you for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.